Find your purpose, but I would also keep it real because it depends on your circumstances. Like a lot of times people say like, find yourself and find your purpose. And if you have substantial financial support, you can do that. But if you are one of those people where you don't have as much financial support, then you may have to jump into the job market or figure out a way to sustain and make money right now. And a lot of times a lot of us don't always have the luxury to make mistakes or to dabble in different career fields or figure things out. It's like, I need to know how I'm going to eat tonight. I need to know how I'm going to pay these bills, keep my cell phone on next week. Forget what you heard.
So the question is this: how do thought leaders, school dropouts, former and current students find out what's next after they do or don't cross that stage? If you want to know the secrets to starting the career or business of your dreams, getting paid whatever you desire, and discovering what you do the best with the least amount of effort, then this is the right podcast for you. I'm Shawn Anthony, and this is School's Over. Now what? The podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Shawn Anthony, and I want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for clicking the button and checking out the show today. Once again, as my man Jay-Z says, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and I appreciate that. So let me tell you about this show, right? This show happens to be a top business podcast on iTunes, and each and every single week, we will continue to bring you an inspiring person or a message that's truly going to help you take your brand or business to the next level. But most importantly, anybody that has ever been on this show has answered the question we have all asked ourselves at some point in our lives. And that's, school's over, now what, right? What's the next step? What do we do? And I'm just excited about having you guys show up here consistently and continue to support us. And if you've ever listened to this show before, you know how I like to kick this thing off, and that is with the review of the week. This week's review comes from Sweat78, and they wrote, "Listen, I stumbled upon this podcast, and I can say this is awesome and refreshing." Yo, Sweat78, I appreciate you so much for dropping by and leaving that review. And guys, if you haven't already, scroll to the bottom of your phone right now. If you're listening to this on iTunes, click that 5-star rating and leave your review. This has helped us do tremendous things, and we appreciate all the love and support. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, what's up, fam? You know, building a podcast has been one of the most amazing things I've ever done. It's put me in rooms I could not even believe. But here's the crazy thing. It could be one of the easiest things for you to do. And right now, I want you to have access and learning how you can have your message spread and reach multiple people across the globe. For right now, you can download my free ebook, The Podcast Starter Kit, giving you all the tools you need to start, plan, launch, and grow your podcast today. Just check out the Podcast Starter Kit by clicking the link and downloading your free ebook in the show notes below. This episode is brought to you by patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat. For as low as $5, you can help us reach more people, tour schools, and even impact communities. You also get exclusive content that nobody else can see and be able to go possibly one-on-one with some of our most amazing guests. Visit patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat and become a Patreon today. All right, let's get into the reason you clicked that button. I am back today with the one and only Miss Selena Hill. You've probably seen her everywhere. When I mean everywhere, we're talking about with the who's. We're talking politicians, celebrities, actors, you name it. And today she is on the podcast. She's also the host for Black Enterprise, Be Heard Talk, Social Media Week, SONW Plus. I mean, the stat sheet speaks for itself. And you're going to enjoy this episode as we sit back and give you not only strategies, but we also talk about a bunch of topics that's happening in the world right now and what's the best way to truly navigate them and find your purpose. Sit back, grab your pencil, pen, paper, whatever it is for you, and take notes and enjoy episode 123 with Selena Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with an amazing guest. I'm excited because I've been ready to get her on the show. The one and only Selena Hill is on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, you've been crushing it. I cannot think of hardly anybody that hasn't had a chance to sit down and talk to you. We're talking about, Jermaine Dupri's, the Kirk Franklin's. I mean, you've been on the move so much and being the host of so many different things. So first, welcome to the show. But I know somebody right now is listening and they want to know more about Selena, right? Like, how did she get to this point in her life? Take us back to like that girl growing up. Where are you from?
I grew up in Queens, St. Albans to be exact. I spent most of my time. And I mean, I was just, I don't, like a regular person. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really, really get into knowing what I wanted to do in life until college. So I feel like my upbringing was just like yours, was just like, anybody from around the way. Like, you go to school, you get the new Jordans, you get, try to get fresh when you go to school. And, it's pretty much my focus. Obviously, my friends and family, but I was also, I liked school. So I was like, I did find a lot of enjoyment with that. But I really think that college is the time that I really started to find myself.
Okay, crazy. So like take me back though, right? Like as you're going through school, was there like certain things that you were doing like at an early age, maybe middle school or high school, where you were like getting drawn, whether it was like journalism or whether it was speaking to people? Like what were some of those things that you were just, getting passionate about or being more aware of, as you were going through those stages?
Well, I noticed that I really like to write as a child. Maybe like between like 4 or 5 or 6, I started writing books for fun. And I know my mom kind of called it out and was like, oh, you're going to be a writer when you grow up. And then I remember in high school is when I really decided that I wanted to write for a living. But again, it wasn't until college that I started writing for the newspaper. I joined the radio station and I just started doing so many extracurricular activities that really helped me find my purpose and shape the person that I've become today.
That's dope. So like what college, when it comes to college, right? People always say, I don't know what school to pick. I don't know, what my focus should be. Like when you narrowed it down to universities and things like that, what college did you decide, that you wanted to further your education with?
Absolutely. In high school, I applied for 13 colleges and was accepted to 12. My first pick was Howard University. I just definitely want to go to Howard or Hampton. But at the time, this was during the recession, and my mom, she was working for a company called WorldCom. And it was notorious for being one of the companies where the CEO was stealing from the employees. And so it pretty much tapped into the funding that she was saving up for my college. And it happened, it was a, huge news story. And, after losing the college fund, my mom was pretty much like, well, you're going to have to go to a state school. So that's how I don't want to say ended up, but that's how I ended up going to SUNY Westbury, which is a state university of New York, located at Westbury in Long Island. And I mean, obviously it wasn't an HBCU, but it's sort of known as like the HBCU of the SUNYs. So it was a very, very diverse network. And, I made it my home and I made it my everything.
What I like about that story is that at some points in your life, you got to make adjustments to get to, that end goal for you. How important has it been in your life to make those type of adjustments to get to where you are right now?
I think adjustments are always really important, because we're in an adjustment now. If you look at, COVID-19 and the pandemic and how everyone had to really adjust their workflow, their situation, it's disrupted industries. And it's like, to me, the people that are really thriving right now and the industries and the companies are the ones that have adjusted. So, change is not always easy, but it's necessary to be really flexible and adaptable. And I think that before my mom and I had moved back to Queens, I was living in White Plains, upstate New York. And I remember in like the middle of my second grade school year, I was having a phenomenal year. We had to like pack up and leave. And like that huge adjustment, I didn't know until later on, but like just having that showed me that nothing is like really guaranteed and that at any moment something drastic can change. So because of that experience, it's really showed me, from an early age about, the importance of being adaptable.
Yeah, I mean, it's so key. It's such a great point you brought up, right? COVID-19 came and it just changed the game. Like right now, we're doing a whole bunch of virtual interviews like we're doing right now. People are communicating through school, education, all virtually. For an entrepreneur listening to this right now, because there's so many that pay attention to this show, what would be Selena's advice on how they can stand out right now, in this marketplace, which is a whole new world?
Well, Shawn, I feel like the answer to that best is definitely utilizing social media, making the best and building up a loyal network of followers, fans, whatever you want to call them, and just like really building your tribe there because, with entrepreneurship, a lot of it is based on direct consumer, that having that direct relationship to consumers now. You don't really have to have a middleman or like you just don't have to go through all of the other hurdles that were once in place a decade ago, 2 decades ago. So I think that just understanding the role that technology plays in every single industry and every single sector is a huge part. Also, and obviously social media being a huge component. And just, I think, understanding your customer base, understanding your market, understanding the language that they speak, and really studying them. Those would be some of the tips that I would say.
I mean, huge tips. And I would agree with that more than anything right now, right? Social media, not just social media, but I think personal branding is a new job security. Right. And
absolutely.
And that alone can put you in, different rooms. Like one of the things that I always pay attention to, you mentioned, pay attention to what people are doing. You in particular, you had the chance to interview some people that I absolutely love. I know a lot of guys are fans of the show Power, right? Power Ghost. How was that experience, sitting down with the new actors that are, in that new series? And maybe is that a show that you watch? And what was your thoughts going through that process?
Yeah, sure. So, I would say, okay, so that wasn't my first interaction. Like, actually, Shawn, I had met Amari Hardwick years ago, in a very brief interaction, and the interaction wasn't like as pleasant as I would have liked. I wrote a whole op-ed piece about it because I think I said something along the lines of, Black Lives Matter, and he said Black Lives Matter is just a hashtag. Oh, and wow. It kind of changed into like this, exchange. And I ended up writing about the whole incident years ago. So, that was kind of unpleasant. So I didn't really ever get into Power, not only just for that reason, but also because like, it's just like, it is great production, great script. I saw a few episodes. It's just a lot like very explicit for me and just like definitely not something that I would like when I watched it, I'm just like, oh my God, people are dying. I can't watch this. Like, it affects me. I can't watch death and violence and shooting. It's just me. So anyway, so that was the first interaction. So then I actually went to the, season premiere that 50 Cent did at Madison Square Garden last year. That was huge. That event, like 50 had everybody come out and perform. It was so good. So that was a great, pleasant experience I had. And then for this time around, I actually was at one of the press junket. So I had a chance to interview Method Man, who of course is, beyond this phenomenal role he's doing in Power, has such an extensive career. He's literally one of a hip hop pioneer and a legend. So speaking to him, and then Michael Rainey Jr., I mean, little boy. I was like, he's so cute. Like, I loved him. His personality and charisma, oh my God. And then he does such a good job on the show. Yes. So it was definitely a very pleasant experience.
I'm glad they switched that around. You know what's crazy too is like people when that show switched up to now going Power Book and doing the whole Go series. He is definitely Michael is definitely he's taking the show to a different level for me personally. I'm like, yo, I didn't even know he had that in him, but he's showing you different sides, different characters to the point where you don't even miss whatever you thought it was before.
Right.
It's a whole new era.
It is. It's definitely a whole new era. And like it also features Mary J. Blige, who does a phenomenal job. Excellent. So I mean, again, like the script, the production, everything is so on point.
Hey guys, so let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at ShawnRAnthony_. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show. For you, right? You've had the chance, like we talked about it earlier, and I did a little bit in intro. Like you had, the chance to sit down with so many people. Nowadays, how do you prepare? I'm always talking to people about what's their preparation game like, right? Whether they're a celebrity or whether they're an athlete, what is your preparation game like now? That you're, getting to this type of level in your career.
Well, Shawn, I would probably say it probably looks similar to yours. Research, consuming as much content that person has produced or has been produced about that person beforehand, coming up with those questions. But I will say, doing interviews and being in my industry for a decade now, it also, I like to bring myself and from so the way I do and conduct my interviews, I'm very direct. I can be very hard hitting at times. And I can be and I like to put that into it. Like I like to ask questions that are very thought provoking and would require that person to think about a response that I feel the audience is going to get a lot from. And, a lot of times I don't dance around it. I'll just go for the jugular. You know what I'm saying? Like I love, some of the people I love, interviewers I love are Charlemagne the God. And Wendy Williams, right? Those are iconic interviewers because I love how they just, they're straight to it.
They don't even ask nothing.
And I love, and that's just my personal thing. That's just who I am. And I'm trying to, be as comfortable as I can on camera so that I can, because I am a straight shooter. I'm a native New Yorker. It's just, it's just, that's just how a lot of us are.
You know what's crazy? As we grow so much in this business. This is the first time I probably sat down with somebody that is in an interview space, media space, and in quite some time in a few episodes. What happens is we learn so much, right? And we also learn, how some of these people that people look up to, how they navigate. And one thing that I've learned, and I learned this when I have personally spoke to him, Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad. Some of the most viral, or shall I say, some of the most best clips are when people are saying things you wouldn't believe they would say. Right?
Yep.
And getting them to that point, and it might be controversial, right? Yep. Has there ever been an interview that you've done where you're like, you know what, this makes me feel like I don't know where we're headed, right? We might have to switch this up a little bit. Have you ever felt like that tension or felt that mark when you're in the middle of an interview where, that person might be ready to go?
Absolutely. And the thing that I've learned is don't take it personal, because especially with my high profile interviews, they have handlers that wrap you up, right? Whether it's on the carpet or even I did a Zoom interview with Kamala Harris a few weeks ago. And her publicist came on camera after my second question was like, wrap it up. And she stood there with a smile on her face. And I was like, okay, last question, Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Time is of the essence. And, I feel like a lot of us, you and I, Shawn, and everyone is a content producer, we're producing more content than ever now. So it's go, 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 go. Yeah. For me, I'm always, I have, oh Lord, talk about overcommitted, so it's just a lot to do and a lot going on. Yeah. So yeah, I've definitely felt those vibes. I cannot think of anyone, specific now,
Yeah.
but especially on the red carpet when you have literally 30 seconds to get a question out and their handlers. A lot of times, so it's like the interviewer you might not feel that anxiety from them, the subject, but their handlers are in the background, like wrap it up,
You get that
speed it up. Like even when I did Janelle Monáe's interview at her, she had a recent press junket. They put on the Zoom, like 2 more minutes, 1 more minute, last question, wrap up now. I was, how are you supposed to focus like that? You know, so it's the nature of the game. It just keeps you sharp on your P's and Q's, and you realize that you only have but so much time. So make every word, every second count.
Exactly. Guys, if you listen to this right now, it doesn't matter what field you're in. I think what's important, what you just said, Selena, is that you got to make every second count, right? Because at the end of the day, right, all those seconds add up to a point where it could be very valuable. It could be, something monumental for somebody to learn. And you got to navigate, through those things. For you right now, what has been probably one of the biggest things you've learned, going through, COVID-19, the racism that's happening right now in the world? What's been like some of the biggest things that you've learned through all of this?
I feel like COVID has shown, I don't know, back to that first question about adjustments, like anything can happen, life happens, and a part of life is uncertainty and unexpectancy. And what that has taught us and taught me is that how you react to it is what really matters. Like you can have an unexpected death in a family. You can have an unexpected car crash. We all had COVID-19, like literally a health pandemic. How are you reacting? And for me, it all goes back to my faith. Like I'm deeply rooted in faith and as like a believer in Christ. So like for me, it's all about, well, I didn't know this was coming, but God did. So let me talk to God about what I need to do now and figure out a contingency plan, a plan B, a plan C, so that I can still get to my goal despite how I may be feeling or despite the burden or the struggle or the obstacles that may be in my way.
Man, that's powerful advice. I mean, there's a higher power, and God is somebody that you always can look to, especially if you're in any, situation and things don't go, as you said, as you expected for them to be. So I want to ask you a question, because I've asked this question to so many people that have hopped on this show, and every single body that's been on this show. And that is, if you were that person that's listening to this podcast who just graduated, right? Or perhaps, let's say, you didn't even walk across that stage at all, asking yourself the question of the podcast, school's over, now what? What advice would you give?
Find your purpose. But I would also keep it real, because it depends on your circumstances. Like a lot of times people say, like, find yourself and find your purpose. And if you have, substantial financial support, you can do that. But if you are one of those people where you don't have as much financial support, then you may have to jump into the job market or figure out a way to sustain and make money right now. And a lot of times a lot of us don't always have the luxury to make mistakes or to dabble in different career fields or figure things out. It's like, I need to know how I'm going to eat tonight. I need to know how I'm going to pay these bills, keep my cell phone on next week. Forget what you heard. So it really depends on the circumstance. I mean, that's not lost on me. It depends on it. I had that luxury to, I had that support where my mom and my family were like, well, you're gifted in media. And, starting off at the beginning of this decade, we're in 2020, last decade, media was not paying well. I interned for a year out of college before I got my job, or almost a year, did unpaid internships or was getting paid very little. So, they're like, oh, well, go for it. You're talented here. Follow your dream. That's what I did. But I feel like for other people, if you don't feel like you have that luxury to do free internships like I did, I would just say, like, really just pray about it. Keep your faith, figure out what it is that you do like to do. And maybe you have to make money doing something else, but in your spare time and in your free time, try to dedicate that extra time into finding something you're passionate about and that would lead you to your purpose and then eventually compensate you.
Yeah, I love that advice, right? Find something you're passionate about that can lead to the money, that can lead to the bag. Maybe it's you securing a new skill, right? Maybe it's you securing, how to do something you never thought you could do before that you would do for free, but you're going to get paid at it. So I really like that advice. Somebody right now is listening. They're like, you know what? Selena's dope. I want to learn more about her. Where can they find you on social media? Just give them all your platforms and where they can locate you.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Shawn. You guys can follow me at Miss Selena Hill. Miss is spelled with an MS. You can also check me out at MissSelenaHill.com.
Man, I appreciate you so much for being on the podcast today. And for those of you who have been listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at ShawnArtAnthony_, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.